Okay, so let's have a look at performance accountability, everybody, and remembering that performance accountability is about the clients of a program, agency, team or system. Okay, so now we're talking about clients, we're talking about client outcomes. Now we talked earlier about 3 types of performance measures, okay, 3 types of performance measures. We always use these performance measures when we're talking about the clients of a service, program, agency or system, and when we want to understand whether or not, for example, a program is actually working. And there are 3 types of performance measures, everyone. I know that you're dying to say it with me, but I won't make you today. But they are: how much did we do, how well did we do it, but most importantly, is anyone any better off? Okay, that's the most critical performance measure anybody could ever ask about a service, program, agency or system. Are your clients, the word anyone, remember, represents your clients, are your clients better off? And as you can see, we've got a quadrant here, and I just want to quickly talk to you about that. How much did we do? We're actually measuring the quantity of effort, okay? We're measuring the quantity of effort, and it's always a number. How well did we do it? We're measuring the quality of our effort. We're measuring the quality of our effort. But the most important question is, what is the quantity and what is the quality of our effect? Were we actually effective in terms of the service, program or initiative that we were delivering? The absolutely most critical question we can ask of any program or initiative. Okay, so let's have a few examples here. This is an education example. Of course, you can have more than one performance measure in any quadrant, but for the purposes of the 1 hour intro, I've just got 4 there. So this is some kind of education institute or provider, for example. How much did we do? The quantity of our effort, number of students. Okay, so the students are the clients of this particular provider, number of students. We always want to know how many clients we have. Quality, how well did we do it? The quality of our effort. One example of a quality measure, for example, might be the student-teacher ratio. Just depends on who you talk to, but remembering it's just an example today. So student-teacher ratio could be an example of a performance measure related to how well did we do it? What was the quality of our work? But most importantly, the question is anyone any better off? You know, are the clients, are the students of this particular education provider any better off? We're going to measure that through the number and percentage of graduates, e.g. the graduation rate. Okay? If students aren't graduating from this particular institute or provider, then we know that that's a signal that they certainly aren't any better off, that's for sure. I just want to talk to you quickly about the use of a number and a percent, okay? A number and a percent. Let's just say I'm the principal of the school and I come to you and you're my fabulous board and I say to you, look, I've had an absolutely wonderful year and I've had 100 graduates, okay? 100 graduates, that's my number. Thank you very much, I'd like a $500,000 pay rise. And you say to me, yeah, that's fantastic, Sharon, absolutely no problem, here you go. Okay, but what I failed to tell you was that I had 1,000 students, okay? So the proportionate impact or the proportionate effect was actually very low, it was only 10%, okay? So, but as a responsible board using RBA, you would throw that back at me, how much, how well, any better off, and then we would partner together using those 7 questions, which would enable us to turn the curve on that 10% graduation rate up, okay? So I'll give back half my pay rise and then you can use the rest for incentive-based performance. So let's have a look at this, another example here, and I'd like to acknowledge the Ministry of Social Development, Becky Lazenby and Shelley Marshall. So this is a real life example. It's BreakThru Integrated Case Management Service. It's funded by MSD, and this service provides some additional case management support for at-risk youth and youth who actually need a little bit more support but are not quite at risk at this point in time. So, how much, how well, any better off? How much, how well, any better off? How much do we do? We're measuring the quantity of our effort. So the number of clients, we always want to know that, and also they're looking at the number of client completions. How well did we do it? The performance measure here is the percentage of clients satisfied or very satisfied with service. Satisfaction rates, a very important measure of how well did we do it. And also the percentage of completions, okay? So the proportion of clients who are actually completing their plans. And the most important question is anyone any better off? Anyone representing the client, okay? So here we have 3 measures: number and percentage of clients who report the service helped them to access or connect to other services or supports they needed. Okay, help them to access or connect to other services or supports they need. That's what we call a subjective performance measure. We're asking for the opinion of the client, and it's about whether or not the service actually helped them to do something. We also have 2 objective performance measures here: the percentage of clients in education, training or employment, and also the percentage of clients who did not reoffend. Okay, 2 great better off performance measures in terms of positive behaviour change and potentially whole of circumstance change for those particular youth. Okay, so this is your new best mate slide. Little did you know, but actually we have got copies for you at the end of the day, so don't walk out without one. And what I do is I encourage all my clients to utilise this slide when you're designing or developing performance measures. And what's great about this particular slide is that you can put it up on your fridge, or you can potentially put it next to your bed and lovingly read it at night. And I know that that's what some of my clients do. Okay, so separating the wheat from the chaff, different types of performance measures, how much, how well, any better off. So how much did we do? That's about the number of clients or customers served. You always want to know that core piece of information, but also you might want to look at the number of activities that you're delivering as part of your service program or initiative. How well did we do it? Again, this is about the quality of the work that's being delivered. Now, there are 2 types of how well did we do it performance measures, which we encourage you to have a look at when you're designing yours for your service program or initiative. Firstly, there are common measures here. So examples are client-staff ratio, workload ratio, staff morale, staff fully trained, etc. Those are examples of common performance measures. How well did we do it? You're very welcome to use any of those if you think they're relevant to you. There are also what we call activity-specific measures. So activity-specific measures are basically looking at the quality of particular activities. Now I'm going to share a bit of wisdom with you at this point in time. You cannot develop an activity-specific quality measure if you do not know what your activity is. Okay, it's amazing, isn't it? Thought I'd share that with you. Activity-specific measures are usually something to do with the timeliness of the activity, the completion of the activity, whether or not that activity actually meets a standard. But most importantly, everyone, and what we're focusing on here today is client outcomes. What are the outcomes that you are achieving with and for your clients? So the most critical performance measure is anyone any better off, anyone equals your clients, okay? Now what we suggest is that there are 4 categories of outcomes that you might like to have a look at when you're designing your performance measures. So first of all, skills and knowledge, okay? How have your clients' skills and knowledge actually improved as a result of utilising your service? Attitude, opinion. How has the attitude or opinion of your clients positively changed in terms of your service delivery? Behaviour. How has the behaviour changed of clients in a positive way associated with your service? And last but not least, circumstance change. Has the whole of circumstance of those particular client group changed in relation to the service delivery? Circumstance change, I once asked Mark Friedman what that meant, and he said, well, you can use it as a catch-all. Any particular outcome that doesn't fit into one or more of these categories, you can use circumstance change, which I thought was very helpful. Just quickly, a little note here, point in time versus point to point, okay? So you can have different types of improvement. So a point in time is basically at this particular time, has that client outcome improved, whereas a point to point is from, say, year 1 to year 2, what was the point-to-point change, what was the point-to-point improvement, and sometimes this is where targets kick in, so the point might be 50% and then you want the second point to be 40% or something like that. That's point-to-point. What we suggest in RBA is that any turn of the data curve, be it an indicator curve or a performance measure curve, any turn of that curve away from the baseline, either up or down, depending on where you want to go, is improvement. Okay, so everybody, you know how we said 7 questions for population? There are also 7 questions for performance. And those of you who have memorised the 7 questions for population will automatically realise that we're starting at a different point, aren't we, when we talk about performance accountability, because the number 1 question is about who are our clients, okay, who are our clients? But for the 7 population accountability questions, the number 1 question was who is our population, okay? So now we're talking about who are our clients. Fascinating conversation to have with your team or within your own agency or system, because often we have different views of who our clients are. And the critical issue is, how can you define an outcome for your client if your team is thinking about different clients? Okay, great conversations to have. Number 2, how can we measure if our clients are better off? Is anyone any better off equals client outcome. Is anyone any better off equals client outcome. So we want to understand how can we measure if our clients are better off. We also want to understand how we can measure if we are delivering services well, okay, if we are delivering services well, and that's the performance measure, how well did we do it. And then once we've identified our end, then what we want to do is understand again, like in the population turn the curve 7 questions, we want to understand for the performance, what is the baseline data and what is the story, okay? So any piece of data, we need to understand the baseline data, but we also need to understand what's the story, again, what are the causal factors associated with the baseline data. And 5, who are the partners? Again, RBA is very inclusive. We always like to ask the question, who are the partners that have a role to play? Number 6, what works to do better? What works to do better, including no cost, low cost. And again, we encourage you to use common sense ideas, but also research where available and evidence-based practice. And number 7, what do we propose to do? So that's our action plan associated with performance accountability, and in particular, how are we going to achieve clients being better off? These are our means and these are our ends, okay? Like before, for population accountability, here is a diagrammatic version of the 7 questions. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but you can ask questions, queries, try and find out more information and research throughout any part of that journey from ends to means.